Welcome and thank you for joining us again on FintechTalks. Talks. Really excited today to be talking to Rory O'Reilly. Rory, if you could please introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Number one, thanks so much for having me here, Sanjeev. Really pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Rory O'Reilly. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Knot. Knot is like Plaid, but for merchant connectivity. So we sell SDKs to fintechs like PayPal or Built or OnePay. They embed our SDK, and when a user joins, we connect them to merchants and then perform actions on their behalf.
That sounds great. Can you go a little bit into your background and how you got to Knot?
Yeah, of course. If we go back from the early days, my parents were hustlers.
Okay.
They would buy things wholesale from China and sell them on the streets of New York.
Oh, wow.
So imagine someone going kind of factory to factory or door to door selling cutlery and shoes. And when I was really little, I would sell shoes with my parents during the summers. Yeah. And this is a quick story, but kind of a funny one. I remember the first day I was handing out flyers with my parents. We would go to people at like a stop sign and say, here's a flyer for shoes. And probably one of the first cars rolled up their window on me. And I went to my mom and I said, Mom, they said no to the flyer. What do I do? And she said, you go to the next car. So that was kind of my first foray with entrepreneurship. Yeah. And then me and my brother got super lucky. We both went to Harvard. Yeah. We both dropped out. I dropped out after my sophomore year, my brother Kieran after his freshman year. Yeah. And we made a website that became GIFs.com. Yeah. So the file format, you could make a GIF on our website, dozens of millions of GIFs made. We had a lot of fun with that one. Then we launched one of the first token sales. Magically overnight, we had 1 out of 1,000 Ethereum in the whole world.
Whoa.
So at the time, it was $80 million worth of Ethereum. So it was crazy. We were 22, 23. Then we launched our own debit card called Millions. Seemingly overnight, became one of the most followed fintechs on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. But what we realized is it's very annoying and hard to get our customers to add their Millions card to their sticky recurring merchants. So they wouldn't add it to Verizon or Amazon or Costco or let alone their State Farms of the world. So we built a tool that we ended up spinning off and calling Knot to kind of connect them and add their card and accomplish other things on their behalf.
Wow. I'm an immigrant. My family is an immigrant. So we probably bought some of the shoes that you on the streets. And that's great. That's a really cool experience. And loved what your mom said about just going to the next car. I worked at Citibank for 9 years, and so much of my time was like trying to get to top of wallet, trying to get to the card being used, and obviously like commerce has shifted and it's changing. So how much of your success with Knot has been sort of like a technology perspective versus like maybe like a business knowledge perspective? Like what's helped you not become so successful?
Yeah, great question. For Knot, I feel like the star of Slumdog Millionaire. If you've ever seen the movie, he's in the hot seat and he's being asked all these questions, and throughout his life, he had somehow serendipitously done those things and acquired that knowledge. Yeah. So for the tech part of Knot, GIFs.com, we were figuring out the APIs of YouTube, Vimeo, Twitch, all these video websites, and handing those APIs to download their videos to make GIFs from them. Yeah. That's the same thing we're doing at Knot, but in a different context. We're getting Amazon, Walmart, Target to add their card, to see what users bought, to buy things on their behalf. So we kind of got that expertise there. And then on the business side, I was the CEO of a card company, Millions. So we knew that the struggles of the card companies and their pain points, what they'd be willing to pay, how big of a problem this really was that you're mentioning. When we talk with a prospect or a customer and we say, do you want top of wallet? Do you want revenue and retention? Do you want your users to use your card quicker, faster, easier? Everyone says no. I'm just kidding. Everyone says yes, right? They shoot their hands out. They're like, yes, I want that. I need that. So we got kind of lucky that we knew the business side. We had that pain point. We also knew how to kind of bring that to life.
How does the changing digital experience relate to like card switching or card offers, for example?
Yeah, great question. I was with Frank Cooper, the chief marketing officer of Visa, a couple months ago. And he said something to me that was very profound and something that I never thought about before. And he said in 20 years, and maybe sooner, people will never know what a plastic card looks like. In other words, they'll never be entering their cards by hand online. They'll be doing an Apple Pay or a Klarna Pay or a PayPal Pay or a Venmo Pay. And how will they be provisioning their payment mechanisms? It's going to be through a digital interface. And Knot is kind of that bridge between we want your card and payment instruments on file, and how are we going to get that online So I think the cutting edge is plastic, costs money, right? Not good for the environment. You have to activate it. That is going to shrink. It's not going to happen overnight, but in the next 10 years or so, I think that is certainly going to go away.
The value proposition for card issuers or banks, like I can see that quite clearly. Well, what's the value proposition for merchants in terms of how you interact with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the merchants, imagine that someone is trying to pay for their Netflix, but they switched banks.
Yeah.
Now that's involuntary churn. The user is not able to pay for their Netflix because they moved all their money to a separate bank. Or let's say I'm going to check out on Amazon and I use the wrong card. And then I get frustrated and I say, I'm going to abandon this cart. I think 8% of folks that try to check out end up abandoning the cart experience. So for not, we sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly help with that involuntary churn that merchants face, and also the abandoned cart issue.
Okay. You mentioned how, sort of thinking of yourself as a bit of like Plaid, and then I've also seen heard another podcast where you talked about yourself and you thought of like how many new cards you're helping issue. In my mind, that's like I think of like almost like let's say like a Credit Karma or something like that, or NerdWallet, like for customer acquisitions, and then Plaid is obviously data driven. Like how do you marry the two? It's I think two different business models, and but obviously they're intertwined.
Yeah, great question. Well, we're very lucky to kind of have the Plaids of the world show us the blueprint for connectivity services. Plaid ended up investing a small amount in Knot. So I really love the team over there, and Zach is just an exceptional human being. But I think that the biggest value comes when you connect the users to something that they want to do. So in Plaid's case, connecting them to bank accounts. Now you see that they're able to have very advanced fraud tools because they know where all of your bank accounts are. They know when you spin up accounts. They know what your balance is. And that led to a whole decision tree of different products that Plaid is able to offer. And you're starting to see the same thing with Knot. And Knot does tens of thousands of card provisions per day. By the end of this year, we will have connected well over 1% of all Americans to one of their favorite merchant accounts. And for us, 1%, it's not a ginormous number, but it's clear that within the next maybe 2 years, we'll be at 10% or 15% or 20%. And I think Plaid is at something like 30, 40, or 50%. So we're well on our way to that universal connectivity. But when you connect an account with Knot, we can obviously add your card, but we can see what you purchased. So the most advanced card issuers are using that in innovative ways. And then we can also buy things on your behalf. So probably by the time this airs, there will be a very large fintech that is going live with Knot's agentic shopping product.
Oh, wow.
So we couldn't be more excited to see that get out into the world.
That's very, when you think of agentic shopping, it's something that's like still, I describe it as like, it's still it's still a baby. It hasn't been really, it hasn't matured yet. How are you thinking about the Knot solution for that in the context of a pretty dynamic market?
Yeah, great question. I think that in order to have the best agentic checkout experience, you want to provision the card that you want. You want to have some history on that user, what they're buying, what they're spending, what their card usage looks like. And obviously you want to be able to check out via API securely. You don't want to have to wait for something to click the buttons. You don't want to have to be stuck logging back in again. And that's what Knot has. Once we add the card, we're connected, we know what you bought, and then you could check out via API securely. Our right to win is that the user's permission access to Knot.
Okay.
When they log into a platform via Knot, they're giving us access and saying, I want you to stay connected. I want you to add this card, and I want you to enable these additional benefits in the future. So that's kind of where we like to play in the space. I think that specifically for agentic shopping, we will be part of the tool set of many of the other innovative companies like OpenAI or Perplexity.
Okay.
But I feel like our right to win is the user permissioned access.
That makes sense. And I think it keeps you on the right side of like the creepy versus like the how helpful,
Exactly.
on the side of things. Yeah.
Exactly.
So actually, I've got a brother and a sister. We got three of us, and we have a text chain basically. And my brother's founded an ed tech startup, and then my sister's founded a media startup, and they're both gone from like 0 to 8-figure in tens of millions of revenue within like 3 years in their businesses. And so we've got I'd say a really weird sibling text chain. But I think I'm guessing that you have really weird conversations with your brother, being having founded multiple companies with them. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. I mean, my brother is my best friend. We're a year and 3 days apart.
Oh wow.
We've done everything together. Elementary, high school, college, every single startup we've done together. It's just been phenomenal to have someone who's your best friend, who's your blood, right, your brother, and your co-founder. And not only that, but we split our roles pretty much equally in different directions. I'm the CEO. I do most of the business stuff. He's the CTO. He does all the tech stuff. And I'll tell you one quick story of how that divide kind of came to be. When we were 11 and 12, we had our first small tech company. Well, basically, you could do small tasks online and get paid a quarter or so. And we had 2,000 users. We ended up making maybe like $1,500. But he was a much better developer than I was at that age, and still now. And I said, Kieran, I'm the older brother, right? I will do the non-tech stuff. You will do the tech stuff. And as a good younger brother, he said, okay, bro. And that was the divide. And it's kept for the last 20 years.
That's pretty cool. I think with my siblings, it's very much like there's obviously there's sibling rivalry, but there's also like sibling support, and siblings like trying to keep up with each other helps push us. And I'd imagine like when he's making progress on the technology stack, you're probably like, oh man, or is that a fact that
you're 100% right. I mean, we've never had a rivalry, but we certainly push each other.
Yeah.
My brother is the better brother in every way. Smarter, better looking, more talented. He is he's like my older brother to some extent.
Yeah.
But we were in a debate kind of competition together, and because we were brothers, we were ended up being paired up. And he was an expert public speaker, an expert debater. Yeah. And the night before the competition, he said, "You better not let me down." And he was 12, I was 13 at this time. And I kind of stayed up all night, and I said, I can't let my brother down. And we ended up winning that small competition. But being able to push yourself as brothers and speak candidly amongst each other and say, you need to step it up.
Yeah.
That definitely happened.
That candidness, that's absolutely necessary. I completely agree with that. You're obviously very active on the conference circuit, but like, what was your FinTech meetup experience like?
If I had to say one word, I would say phenomenal.
Yeah.
One of the highlights, obviously, was seeing you. I mean, to see the CEO of FinTech Meetup and for you to kind of take photos with us and all of our friends and be there, that felt really special. And I think that's kind of the window to what FinTech Meetup is. It's meeting amazing people. It's having joyous moments. It's that warm communal feel that you brought to us then and that you see with every other participant. I mean, every year we host an event at Smith & Wonski that I think that you came to.
Yeah,
so we had a lot of fun there. Yeah. And a bunch of amazing product founders, CEOs, investors, et cetera, colleagues, customers come. And what you've created at FinTech Meetup is just phenomenal. So that's the word that I would use. But thank you so much for kind of facilitating that experience.
You're too kind, and I'm just the small part of it. We got a bigger team that's doing most of it. But appreciate the kind words. And one thing that's also really struck me about you and not is that I do feel like you've done a really strong job in terms of maximizing an event. Like, are there any words of advice that you might give to someone who's thinking about going to a FinTech event, FinTech meetup, or what have you?
I think our advice is probably counter to everyone else's. Because we're running a business, we try to make our events very high ROI, both for ourselves, but also for the attendees. So we're pretty ruthless on like who we accept into the event. And then obviously you bring your friends, the folks who are just like good vibes. Yeah. But we want every time you turn a couple degrees, you're looking at someone who is a decision maker, someone who is important to you, someone who is friendly, fun, outgoing, intelligent, someone you'll learn from. Yeah. And FinTech Meetup does a great job of this because obviously there's a barrier to entry. You have to go to Vegas. These people are already amazing. But sometimes, let's say like a New York City event that is less curated than FinTech Meetup, and you bring in a bunch of folks from completely different fields. Maybe it's not a high ROI event for them. That's kind of my philosophy on curating the events. Make sure that everyone gets value from every interaction.
That's great advice. That we're obviously in a very dynamic time for the industry and for the greater economy. Are there any things like what's most exciting to you, like looking out like a year or two?
I think that there's probably never been a better time to have user permissioned access to merchant connectivity. If you think about it, what we have to do on merchants' websites is kind of, I don't want to say like like monkeys typing on the computer, but I need to take my wallet out, flip it over, look at my card number, type it in, verify it. If I want to buy something, I have to click, click, click. There's no way for me to share what I've ever bought with anyone, besides taking a photo of my receipt. What if I want to eat healthier or buy something cheaper? Like, there's no efficient way to do that. But by getting access to these APIs that we've done and kind of productizing that suite, I think there will be a whole host of innovative companies. And my wildest dream is that we could enable hundreds of companies to exist, the same way Plaid enabled hundreds of new innovative fintechs to exist.
I love that. Obviously, if there's anything I could do in that process to help you, well, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And once again, thank you so much for joining us today, Rory.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.